Hello and welcome to today's Student CPD session, which is looking at your ability to prioritise, to put things in order so that you can stay on top of your workload and avoid the anxiety that comes with when you start to feel swamped. This is going to help you in terms of your revision, your general meeting deadlines, your study timetable, and managing perhaps the other commitments that you have outside of college time as well. Let's get started. I'm a huge fan of to-do lists, and if you go on Google, you can find an awful lot of them available to you. You can print them, you can outline them, you can buy books of them, you can do any number of things. But the most important thing is to find the ones that work for you. Now, I thought that I had a fairly normal approach until a colleague noticed that I was doing things slightly differently to the way that she was doing something. I love being able to tick things off, and that's going to feature in a moment in terms of motivation and staying on top of things. But I also don't want to be reminded of all of the things that I've done and see something that's scribbly and messy. That goes against how I function. So I put my times in reverse order, and for the sake of this video, I made a short list of things that I will be doing today. And you'll see that at the bottom of the page is when I start. And the reason is that as soon as this thing has been completed, I cut it off. I get the scissors, I cut a line across the page, and I remove that piece of paper. By the end of the day, I hope to have gone through the entire piece of paper and I've got rid of it. I don't have to see the scribbly lines, and I've been able to feel that sense of it's finished, it's gone. I don't have to think about it anymore. So whichever thing that you do, whichever's your process, and I know that this might seem a little bit strange to some of you, it has to be the one that you find most satisfying. Otherwise, making the to-do list is just going to become another chore on your things to do, rather than something that guides you through your list of items and gets you to a definitive and useful, effective, efficient conclusion. Something else that's going to be really important to you in your planning, in your response to tasks, is thinking about realistically what you've done and how you can move forward. You have to be able to review the content that you've done, and for me, that's getting rid of it. So it's done, but did I achieve it according to the times that I set for myself? So was the video 40 minutes long, or did I actually need to give more time for that? Did the planning of this CPD session take longer than I anticipated? Making sure, of course, that I build that into my next one. This is not an opportunity for you to beat yourself up when it doesn't go according to your plan. Your plan is a guide. What it's there for is to help you see where you're spending time, where you need to allot more time, and where actually you're more efficient than you thought you were. And so you can perhaps build in a break for yourself, or maybe an opportunity to do a really short task so you get to move up that list a lot quicker. Now, that engages with something that I've identified, and if you've watched the video on revision schedules, you will know that I'm a big advocate for building in the opportunity to have a break. You need to be ready for the interruptions that life will throw at you. You are incapable of controlling everything in your environment. As much as you would love to lock yourself away in a room and commit entirely to your studies, the chances are you're going to have to walk the dog or answer the call or make dinner. There are plenty of things that you're going to be required to do. So build in pockets of time that allow you to identify the things that you need to get done and when they're going to need to be done by. The importance of priority is not necessarily doing the thing that you enjoy the most, but making sure that all things are done in a timely manner. So when you're constructing your list, make sure that you focus on the thing that's going to take the most amount of time and realistically plan that time in. It doesn't have to be first, it doesn't even have to all be in one go, but you need to be prepared for how long something is going to take in relation to its deadline. And if that is a body of work, if you imagine, for example, a piece of language coursework, that's not going to be able to be done in one day. So when are you going to build that in for you to complete it on time? And this is the other thing. Often the things that are going to take the most amount of time are not always the things that we're desperate to get started. So make sure you're able to reward yourself. Now, I'm a big chocolate addict. I could happily plough my way through this pile of goodies without really much of a problem other than my guilty conscience and possibly the waistline. But when you've got your opportunity and you've prioritised, you've identified that actually your history coursework is due sooner than your language coursework, so you're making time to do that, it might not be your most favourite item on the list. So, how can you make it worth your while? Obviously, any history teacher worth their salt is going to say doing the study is reward enough. But realistically, if there's an opportunity to switch on Netflix or go down your most recent YouTube rabbit warren, you're going to do that. So make it again this real sense of palpable reward that you can give yourself at the end of achieving that item on your list that maybe is less desirable than any of the others. Now, multitasking is brilliant and in small doses, really useful. But, and here's the caveat, you need to be very mindful of how many things you're taking on all at once. You also need to identify what's most important to you. In a recent discussion with my students, we've been talking about the problems of being able to find a part-time job. The issue here is that often the reward, the monetary reward that seems so immediate, and you can then go and reward yourself by spending that money in wages, can sometimes surpass the long-term reward that a commitment to your education will give you. If you were thinking about joining the world of work and building your career in that fashion, make sure that the study you're doing supports that pathway. But if your pathway is higher education, is university, is further study, make sure that employment doesn't get in the way of it. Be really careful with how many things you take on board at once and don't let them overlap. Like I said, multitasking can be really good, but just make sure that because you've got so many things going on all at once, you don't lose sight of what you're trying to achieve in the long run. Every day when we look at these sessions, I've had a look at how to engage with the topic and complete a task that supports your application. And today is no different. What I would like you to do is to consider a normal day during your summer break, during the 6 weeks that you would normally have away from college or school. Take one of those days and break down all of the things you intend to do in that day. That might very well just be about having your breakfast, about planning your main meal, reading a book, watching a new film, meeting with friends. Start to engage with what order they go in and how much time. Time can be really terrifying. It can feel like a person chasing you sometimes. So actually what you need to do is befriend it. Get used to how long things take and be comfortable with the reflection process when things go over the time expectations or under. Get that sense of achievement, but don't feel the sense of guilt when something takes longer. Just be really careful with how you prepare for that on the next occasion. So that's your task for today. Taking a normal day, not a study day, not a revision day, a normal day. Start to think about the order in which you do things and how long you allow yourself to do different things, including getting distracted. How long are you going to allow yourself to spend on Snapchat or Instagram or making a TikTok video? Make sure that you plot that and reflect on it at the end of the day.